Good morning, and welcome to the Members Forum. To begin, Guy and Dominic are going to share some thoughts with you, and then you will be able to express your compliments, concern, and comments. And please, this is your opportunity to ask Guy and Dominic any question that you have about his vision for ICC or the socks he's wearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2015 ICC Member Forum. You know, we thought we'd change it up a little bit this year and warm up the audience a little bit by giving me an opportunity to ask President Tomberlin a few questions. So, Guy, if you're ready.
I think I am.
Maybe we'll get started. You know, in looking back as your year as president, what are three things that you're the most proud of that you and this board of directors have been able to accomplish?
Thank you. First of all, and first and foremost, it's been being able to work with your board of directors and Dominic Sims, your CEO. It's not my accomplishments, it's the board of directors' accomplishments, and the direction that the membership has given the board and the implementation procedures and practices that the board have put in place have just enabled me to actually look good because we're moving in a positive direction. And that would be, personally, that would be my biggest accomplishment, was being able to work with them and being able to see this organization continue to prosper and go in the right direction. Financially, we're stable. Memberships are more engaged. Chapters are more engaged and participating. And I see a continued growth, which is what we're all about. It's like any other endeavor. You get out of it what you put into it, and I see our memberships are really putting into it, and I think we're getting a lot out of it. The organizational accomplishments would be, I guess if I had to count, 1, 2, 3. It's kind of hard. It's kind of asking like Vince Lombardi, you know, what are the three things that you like best about winning the Super Bowl? Because that's actually how I feel. It's like we've won the Super Bowl. I would say that the building the groundwork for the next generation. I think the training programs we've put in place today for this conference have really set the stage for what I think will be training programs from here on. It's raising the profile, which was an initiative put in place by a past president, Wally Bailey. And I still remember to this day when Wally was in front of the membership saying how important the next generation was, and raising the profile was the part that we needed to focus on. And mentor and succession planning has been all part of it. I think it's a low resource, high output capability that we all have in finding the next generation. And lastly, stabilizing the organization. I think we've found a happy medium where financially we're doing well, organizationally we're doing well. I think we have the right staff in the right place. I think we have the right leaders in the right place, and I think we're heading in the right direction. So that would be my three major accomplishments that I feel most proud of.
Excellent, Guy. Thank you. You mentioned in your comments this morning and just now some of your thoughts about the next generation, right? The future professionals. And that was one of your significant initiatives this year, was to have a conversation about that. So what have you learned from that conversation about the need to attract the next generation and the need to train leaders for the future?
We've got a lot of statistics out there that show that there could be a huge movement from folks from the building safety professional. And I've been an apprenticeship instructor back in the 90s, and I noticed the decreased interest in the trades. And I think that what we've set in place just with this conference, with the career resume building program, the Journey to Leadership program, the chapter president's workshop, I think that those things we've recognized as myself and the board of directors have traveled around the country, met with all of the various chapters, that all chapters are facing a similar struggle with how do we engage the next generation. There's such a concept. I've been to a couple nice seminars. One was an information technology program in Australia, and the thing said that the next perfection is simplistic. And I think we've got to figure out how to make the ICC experience a simplistic. People don't even want to click twice with the mouse anymore. They want to click straight to it. So I think that we're learning that if there's a huge movement towards how to engage the next generation, I think it's going to be digital. I think ICC is moving in the right direction with our IT processes, and I believe we're going to have the tools set in place to help embrace the next generation.
Sure. Well, Guy, let me ask you, with 57,000 members, and many of the most passionate members here at our conference this week. One, how important is it for code officials and building safety professionals to take an active role in recruiting the next generation? And what are some words or ideas that you might use to encourage people to just find one new member, or one young code official to get involved?
My goal has been, since I've become actively engaged, has just been to try and motivate and inspire. And I think it's not just something that we need to try and do. I think it's something that we're obligated to do as code officials. We get to participate in these conferences. I think we're obligated to go back to our localities and to our chapters and share the experiences, talk about the networking that was able to occur. I think it's a low resource obligation and it's a high yield return. You don't have to spend money to go back and recruit new generation. I have a staff of inspectors in my office. We have iPhones now. We have new inspectors come on, 30-year-old folks, and they go out and train with some of our other folks that might be 40s or 50s. And I remember the first conversation I had with one of the more seasoned inspectors that came back after a day, is he said they were looking at a valve, a simple valve, and were questioning if it was being used in the right application. And the older guy was, he was looking at it, and taking a hard look at the valve. And he turned to the younger gentleman and said, what do you think of that? He pulled out his iPhone and he said, well, I've already pulled it up on the internet, and it shows that it's listed to a particular standard that that the codes require, and it says it's approved for this application in a matter of 20 seconds. And I think that's where our next generation is going to be, and that's where we have to start focusing on the simplistic ease of use technology. Sure. And I think that the older folks need to recognize that. The more seasoned folks that have been doing this a while, the way we did it is not the way we do it. I think now that we need a more well-rounded person that's able to look at information technology, historical knowledge, which is extremely important. This room is filled with institutional knowledge that's going to be very challenging to replace. So we have to keep focused on how to transfer that information and convert it into the new digital age and figure out how the next generations are going to be able to utilize it for years to come.
Very interesting. I know you did a lot of traveling for ICC this year, and I am personally grateful, and I know our staff and the entire organization is grateful for the sacrifices that you've made. It's no small feat being away from the office and away from home, so thank you, Guy. But in your travels and your discussions with members and chapters, what else have you learned? What other challenges have you identified? And
I've seen a theme of commonality, and it's global and within the U.S. Sustainability and resiliency. Folks want to know how to build better buildings and have them withstand more forces of nature that we seem to be seeing much more of lately. The next generation of building safety professionals is a common theme throughout the country and beyond. Third-party programs is becoming more a way of life and a part of life for many areas in the U.S. and beyond. And it's the environment of deregulation. While we're creating regulation, seems to conflict, and it seems to be very challenging with how do you implement more stringent energy efficiency regulations while you're trying to deregulate the environment. So I think those are a couple core commonalities. I wrote an article that I hope everybody will be able to take advantage of reading in the next Building Safety Journal when I actually was able to do some international travel and saw that internationally and globally, areas like Scotland and Norway and Sweden are facing the exact same issues that we're facing right here in the U.S. So it's and then within all the chapters, I heard the same types of concerns of how do we deal with these types of, we know the information's out there and we know that we'd like to be able to use it, but on the other side, it's like, hey, let's deregulate and try not to make things too cumbersome and burdensome. Remember, perfection is simplistic, and all of a sudden it's gotten a little more complicated. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think the training programs that we're focusing on and the initiatives that ICC is focusing on are really going to help towards to this end.
Interesting. One other thing, one of our major initiatives for the last couple of years was the development and implementation of CDP Access. And the board played a critical role along with several volunteers that worked on the ICC CDP Access Steering Committee. Our members seem to have embraced it. What other kind of feedback are you hearing or are you getting about the launching of CDP Access? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm hearing glowing reviews. The numbers speak for themselves that we've gotten back in just the increase in participation and engagement. I hope the membership recognizes what an undertaking this type of initiative was. I was fortunate to be on the board that actually helped implement the inception and helped see it through. So I feel it's one of our board's, not mine, largest accomplishments that we've been able to implement, because I think it's going to be utilized in so many different ways. The thing to keep in mind is we're trying to figure out how to engage more people from their living rooms or from their office, while at the same time we want to see you here. We want to have these types of discussions where we can engage and converse about the issues of the day. And so it was extremely challenging to be able to put a process in place that acknowledges both sides of the spectrum. And I think that it's worked superbly. I think that this conference, for example, is one of our largest registration numbers that we've had in the history of ICC. Thank you, Long Beach. And then at the same time, our CDP Access numbers for voting are show the largest numbers of membership engagement that we've ever had, by not by half, but by 12-fold. Yeah.
I like that too.
So we're trying to, and I don't want to say this in front of Steve Jones because we try not to speak in metaphors, but it's threading the needle, and it is, metaphorically speaking, it is a really challenge, and it has. But I think thanks to your leadership and your board of directors' direction, I think we've managed to follow through with a really good initiative, and I think we're going to see it grow exponentially. I think it's going to be a great foundation.
What are some of the future applications for CDP Access that might benefit specific members in specific states?
Some states like Virginia, my home state, we're actually looking at incorporating a CDP Access platform to help us do our state adoptions. So states that have state code adoptions and are able to use it a little bit more globally than the smaller locality or jurisdiction, I think that's going to help our membership. And I think Virginia is very close to looking at a process that'll be in place, working with ICC and letting ICC do the behind the curtain administrative work, while we're able to reap the benefit of getting more of our colleagues and friends and industry involved in our business and code development and code adoption. And we do it every 3 years, and this could be a huge tool to taking care of the administrative back end of code development. And I know states like Washington and Oregon and some others have talked about, as I traveled around, maybe even Hawaii, there was a few that talked about how they could actually utilize CDP on their state level. So we've been having these dialogues. Your staff and our staff have been chatting, and I think we're going to see some, hopefully in a near conference, we'll see a presentation on, hey, this is a hybrid process that worked for Virginia or some other state, and I think this whole networking is the ideal place to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So I think you're going to, it'd be my goal to see it in all 50 states and further out globally. I think the international folks want to engage and participate, and I think we're obligated to make that happen. And we've got a foundation in place for the next generation of building safety professionals. We'll have a foundation in place for the IT. I heard another comment that I'm trying not to quote things and things like that, but I heard that there's a mechanical problem. For mechanical problems, we seem to find information solutions. So while we have this big mechanical problem that we think we're trying to overcome, a lot of times we were in a meeting the other day about data solutions. A lot of we can figure out if we know the data to tie into this thing. Some of the technologies out there today that are just phenomenal, and I think CDP Access is right amongst them. There's hard hats now, that smart hard hats that go along with your smartphone that monitor your heart rate, your hydration level. So if you got a large staff of people working on a job site, you can have a project manager sitting in a room and pay attention to the graphs. If you see somebody getting overheated, you can say, hey, you need to back off a minute, get some water. I've seen demonstrations of this technology. It's just fabulous. We have steel structure cables that go down into concrete piers that actually can monitor the strength of concrete. So maybe you'll know 20 years down the road, if you're building a structure, how well it's performing. That might help us determine what's needed in the next building that's real similar. We may be able to decrease the amount of materials and resources it takes to put things together. Putting building blocks together, more construction may take place off-site, so the job site becomes a construction project where they put pieces together. All these things are showing great rewards and resources and energy, and and time-consuming issue. So it's really exciting to see what's happening in our industry.
Very interesting stuff, Guy. One particular issue, a policy question that I know the board wrestled with this past year. In fact, last year at this conference, there was discussion about how frequently ICC should update the I-codes. And you held a roundtable discussion in Washington, D.C. Last year, and I know the board has had some discussion. What was the outcome of that discussion?
The outcome just revealed again, highlighted the diversity of our organization. We had a room packed actually in D.C. It might have actually been a little bit too small. And we had just participation from all segments of our membership. So we had architects, engineers, manufacturers, code officials, legislators, and everywhere in between. And what we determined was there's a distinct difference between adoptions and publications. And our industry folks that manufacture widgets would like to see the code adopted every 6 months so it could incorporate their technology. The legislators say, hey, we'd like to slow it down a little bit. Our constituents say, we don't want change. But if you look at the changes to the code, we're not changing the code, we're upgrading the code. We do updates. Sarah and her staff will tell you these are code updates. If you compare us to the auto industry, for example, I remember in the 70s we had a lap belt that we didn't used to wear. We used to ride in the back of station wagons with the window down, and we weren't getting probably adequate ventilation. And we didn't have any airbags and things like that. And I think that through federal regulation, the safety standard on automobiles has gone through the roof. At the same time, we've tried to do it with our membership and not without the federal government. We've had a couple interactions with the federal government on accessibility features and energy, and it works better when our membership's the one carrying the message. So I think when our members grab the concept of being able to talk to the regulators and say, look, this is for, we spend the majority of our time in our homes and buildings. Why don't we want the safest homes and buildings out there possible that are going to withstand a hurricane and withstand a tornado and with minimal impact to the community? Because after all, that's our code official segment and our building departments are economic drivers in their localities, and they need to recognize that they are as big an economic driver as any other department that they're dealing with. In fact, probably more so.
Absolutely, yeah. Well put. One last question before we turn to audience questions. Over the last couple of years, ICC has refined our global activities. I know you've had a chance to meet with some members around the world. I just wanted to know what kind of reaction, what kind of feedback you're getting from global members and other members of the community that might be interested in ICC activities.
I was able to make two trips this year and interact on a global level. There's a group that we're involved with that one of our founding charter members, John Trawl from the ICBO Legacy Group. He was actually a charter member. It was the Interjurisdictional Regulatory Collaborative Committee Council, and it's the IRCC. Thank you for those initials. That they're looking at global issues, and this is where I identified that internationally folks are dealing with the exact same things we are. The energy efficiencies, regulations, deregulation, third party, resiliency, sustainability, all of these issues are global. They're not local to us. We're looking at ad hoc committees and things like that. I talked to a couple global members. They say that they're in their home countries and they come to ICC and they hear the exact same discussions in the code level. So the commonality that we share, they've embraced ICC. Raj Nathan with IAS has been heading up our global programs, and Raj provided me with data. We are all over the world. We've got codes in the Middle East that are translated into other languages and metrics, which is a big task for us.
Absolutely.
We've got the codes transferred in another language in Mexico to Spanish. We're in the Caribbean. We are truly international, and I've been humbled to be able to go and continue to promote the ICC. Whether it's certification, we use our certification standards in Canada for testing and certification of their staff. They're building safety professionals, and we are being recognized there, and that is another country, and we are truly other areas we're able to get a piece. Not everybody grabs the I-codes and adopts them, but if we can be there for support services, that's as big a part of our board committed 6 years ago when we started redefining our strategic plan was be the best at what we are, and that was code development is who we are. And so we've really focused on the support services that help promote our code development and our codes that we use today. So I'm really proud to have been a part of that and humbled to be on a global level and be able to say, hey, we're out here, everybody knows us, and everybody wants to see us engaged. So
Right.
we're being well welcomed. So
That's good to hear.
Great to hear.
Guy, we're out of time for our prepared questions. Why don't we turn it over to the audience, see if there are any questions from any members that you'd like to pose to Guy or myself. The only ground rule is you can't ask Guy about his socks. So.
I've learned a keen fashion sense since I've been at the ICC. I'd like to just remind the chapters that I was able to visit with when we gave reports and we met with your boards of directors. You had a lot of these questions you may have seen, might have sounded very familiar to you. So please bring them back up. I thought that one of my key purposes of trying to get as much visibility as I could throughout the country was we're here to serve you and support you. We'd like a lot of interaction and engagement, and this is a great opportunity to stand up and ask us a question perhaps about what's on your chapter's mind of how we can further support your chapter's mission and how we can work together. Partnerships has been a key initiative to the ICC with Dominic's leadership, and it's proving great rewards. So I'd love to hear from folks with questions.
Well, while we're waiting for audience questions, I do have one or two more that I'd like to throw at you if you don't mind. So, ICC has several key strategic partners that have always been there to support ICC, but we have other numerous relationships with other associations. What value do you see in those relationships, and do you see relationships with other organizations expanding in the future?
I'll use one that everybody heard this morning, Rocco Davis with LIUNA. And that's just one example of another organization that continually promotes the mission of ICC. I'll pay tribute and homage to Ron Burton one more time with BOMA International. I had been personally in meetings firsthand where folks, for example, would criticize CDP Access. And before me or past President Bill Dupler or somebody like that could get a word out, Ron Burton was the first one to jump up and say, wait a minute, this is for everybody. This isn't for the board. This isn't for this segment. This isn't for that segment. This is to level the playing field. ICC is here to support us. We want better codes. We want safer environment. And he was just a true partner. BOMA and many folks don't know exactly, Dom, the term strategic partner. The American Association of Architects, that's Institute of Architects, they're a strategic partner. We just entered an MOU with those, with their organization this year to get education in higher level of institutes in the universities. We were incorporating code curriculum in the colleges and universities, and we're doing it in conjunction with the architects. So that's a great partner. The American Gas Association has been with us since our inception. The multifamily housing folks, Ron Nixon's always here doing a Bobby Fowler motorcycle ride, but they are the strategic partners that are engaged in what we do. The National Association of Home Builders. Their national organization has publicly come out and said, we support the 2015 I-codes. That's what we need. When these code adoptions are happening, we're able to stand out and we're able to get these diversified segments of our membership, all speaking with one voice. We're trying to get the best set of standards in place. I think the partnerships, our ASHRAE 189 and Green Code relationship, that's going to prove to be probably one of our best partnerships that we've created for years to come. So I'm excited about the relationships we have.
Sure. You mentioned Ron Burton, and the members are going to hear his name, I think, invoked throughout the conference. He was such a special person. You started to talk about his outlook, and I found it interesting that no matter what the situation was, Ron may not have always agreed with everything, but he, as you said, Guy, he supported the mission of ICC for better or for worse. And I think we have a great debt of gratitude to pay Ron, and it's just phenomenal what the past presiding officers did, and John Belsick and our staff in putting together the golf tournament yesterday. I know you had a chance to be there. What were your thoughts or observations about the golf tournament?
I have to say thanks to Henry Green and Steve Shapiro and the past presiding officers for all they've done putting together that golf outing. That was no small accomplishment. And Tim Ryan and others, these folks are all mentors, so it was impressive to see. and I want to thank them, and I think that that's something we're going to build on. The money's raised, $60,000 is going to go back to our Code of Honor and back to our membership.
That's phenomenal.
And it's just...
That is phenomenal.
And it's in tribute of Ron Burton. So, yeah.
So it looks like we have our first brave soul who has
All right.
a question. I'll turn it over to you, sir.
I want to tell you I like your socks.
Match your shirt.
My question is, in the environment that we're going more and more technology-wise, ICC makes it very difficult for us to attempt to download the codes to our iPads. If you want multiple codes, you have to enter each one of them through the Apple Store. Can ICC make this more easier by making it a bundle? If you wanted a download these ICE codes?
Sure. The simple answer is yes. As a matter of fact, we have, ICC has committed itself to transforming ICC to thinking about ink and paper first to a digital strategy, a digital platform. And we're working hand in hand with our board, who has agreed to fund a major initiative to transform ICC, because I think we know ultimately that while 60% of our code sales are still still come from books, we know the future lies in the digital world, and we're committed to transforming and providing better products and services to serve your needs.
Do you guys have a time frame as to when that might happen?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head, but if you'd leave me a card after the member forum session, I'd be happy to get you that information.
Thank you.
You bet.
If I could, that actually got brought up through CDP Access. Folks were having problems back with iPads with CDP Access, so we've known about it. It's been underway, so I'm sure that being from a large jurisdiction that is extremely technology sensitive in the heightened level of security, I know that we're moving in the direction, and I'm sure thank goodness we should be nearing with the new web page design this year. I think this will be another initiative that'll be able to flow right into that. So thank you for identifying that.
And one last point is that the ICC website is, in my opinion, very difficult to maneuver, very difficult to search by. And is there any movement in regards to improving that?
Well, we just re-engineered it last year and launched a new site. I guess my thought would be, if you have some specific ideas, I'd love to know about them.
Searchability.
Searchability, that's a good one. And the one thing that we have realized is a website is no longer just a static thing. And so we've embarked on a process to continually improve the ICC website. So I think you'll see us rolling out improvements, enhancements, new functions and features on a more regular basis. And I appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mike 2?
All right.
And if you would give us your name.
Dwayne Garris, State of
Hey,
Georgia.
Dwayne.
So with your initiative of the next generation and past President Jones' initiative of the high school program, I think the membership would like to hear what we're doing to help carry on and implementate and support those initiatives.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Mr. Garris. I'm humbled to hear that President-elect O'Chevy is going to continue with our strategic initiative on this next generation and the high school program that past President Jones put in place. And I think today, this conference is the first example of what you're going to see more of. And that's why we're looking for feedback today. We want to know what we can do more of, better, and less of, worse. So we want to continue down that path. The training programs put in place are the first step for the next generation. This interaction with the chapter presidents, we're actually looking at perhaps an annual meeting of just the chapter leaders with ICC Board of Directors, so we can actually hear one-on-one where we don't have the distractions of a conference in place, and we're listening directly to what your members would. So we would hope that the year-long activities in your chapters would be feeding the leaders what are the issues and the initiatives are that ICC can work on, and then we're going to bring them together at this meeting, and we're going to figure out how to accomplish mutual beneficial partnerships, and it'll be hopefully code adoption related, next generation? How do we get the younger generation engaged? How can ICC support the chapter, and how can the chapter support ICC, and just continue moving in the right direction? So I hope that's a fairly reasonable answer, and I'm sure President-elect Chevy will have some other initiatives as well that we'll be able to roll out. And I hope I can help be a part of that.
Over here, mic 1.
Hi, my name is Glen Neil, and I'm the Secretary for the Code Enforcement Officials of Southern Illinois. We're in the St. Louis metro area. We have about 30 communities involved in our organization. We stretch from near Springfield, Illinois, down past Redbud. One of the things that's came up at some of our meetings is the recent move forward with the ICC to make it a tighter, more expensive means to get trained. We're seeing the required CEUs going up and having a hard time, unless we go directly to the ICC, to get some of the training CEUs needed. And a lot of what we're, of course, in Midwest, we're not in a very large population area except St. Louis. I think St. Louis is around 3 million people. So we do have concerns that you're tightening the reins as it is. So not let us be able to seek other means to get the training. We need to keep the CEUs.
You know, Glenn, it's a great question, and I actually think we're going in the opposite direction. Two things are really happening. One is our professional development committee has decided that the number of CEUs that need to come from, let's just say ICC, it's important from a quality perspective. So they have raised those. But at the same time, and this is the important part, we launched a preferred provider network, okay? We launched that about a year ago in November. That preferred provider network is a phenomenal way for private providers of education to be able to issue ICC CEUs. In fact, as of today, we have about 300 preferred providers. Now, we may not have enough of them in your area, and one thing I'd like to do is perhaps connect you with our staff so we could begin to look at your specific needs in your area.
Glenn, what I heard with chapters as I traveled around was they were ecstatic about the preferred provider reason for the exact reason you said. Cheaper, easier, more accessible, and better training. So they're getting better local training. They can do it free because they're a preferred provider, and they get the CEUs that are required. So I was hearing very positive feedback about the preferred provider program, which was a little resistance. There was a little resistance at first. I think it's come completely full circle.
Yeah, just in closing, in Illinois, we have our own state plumbing code, one of the few around. And in the training program for plumbing, we also have the same thing through the Illinois Department of Public Health. You can basically enter in a schedule of what the training is, get approved by IDPH, and then hold those courses. One of the things in our area, we have, I believe it's BAF Technologies that does training. They're a very, very large outfit, and for whatever reason, they said, we don't want to waste the time with this. So
yeah, you know, I'd like to get more information specifically about that, because it's the preferred provider network is
For everybody.
it's a very simple process to go through. The cost is minimal, because our goal is just to get more training opportunities out there to members and chapters. So if you're going to stick around after the forum, I'd be glad to connect you with some of our staff.
okay, thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question. So who's the lucky guy? Over here.
Gary Lampla, building official, City of Redmond, also board of directors of the International Association of Building Officials. But I'm speaking for myself on this one. Since you brought up CDP Access, it seems that the time when the monograph comes out and the hearings is getting shorter and shorter.
Yes.
Okay, now that we do all of our code proposals and our public comments on CDP Access, within a day at least, we get a notification back from ICC saying your code change or your public comment has been accepted, and here's the number. Seems that once they're accepted, those should be made viewable by people so they can get a better, a better chance to really review those.
Right.
Because with this shortened time, it's hard to get an educated and a real good position and make an educated vote to come to here, because this microphone is the nuts and bolts of code development, and we need to know that.
Frankly, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's our goal, staffs, and I'm sure the boards, to increase the amount of time that you have to look at code changes. But one thing we do is once a change is submitted, it still goes through a quality assurance program. You know, our technical staff are full of really smart engineers and building safety professionals, so they do some QC work. But I could tell you that's part of our goal. One of the things that we plan to re-engineer as we continually make improvements to CDP Access is to increase that amount of time that you have to study and evaluate code change proposals. So thank you for reinforcing
Well,
that.
Gary, I'll just add to that.
Yeah.
The board will definitely be looking at, we've already got industry advisory groups that are looking at how we can, now that there may not be a Group C code development process, how we can change our process. So you might see some huge enhancements to everything. There might be more visibility, there may be more time to work, but bear in mind, staff resources, the way they have to put this together now, we're just rolling it out. It's been a few challenges, and I think we've done a really good job, and you bring up some very valid points.
Okay.
But I think you're going to see with this new, some of these new proposals, I think you'll see your board of directors take action to create a different, the code development process, quite honestly, has had an ad hoc group that's worked on it since every legacy organization has been around. They've always tried to constantly improve, and nothing's going to stop with CDP Access. We're going to continually try and improve, and I think your comments are going to be rolled right into exactly what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Guy, you want to take us out?
That wraps up our member forum. We're going to try and do this every year, and I'd like for you to be thinking about what are some of the burning issues that you'd like to be able to bring before the membership and chat with the CEO, and the ICC president, and be able to try and we're all about transparency. That's been a movement towards the past several years to try and just openness and honesty. I don't think there's anything that we can't share with you. So whenever you come up with something, let's try and if it's not time sensitive where you got to get immediate response, bring it to the annual conference and let's talk about it and move forward from here. So thank you all very much for your participation. The interest and commitments is appreciated, and it leads to continued success of the association, and we're here to serve you. If you're an eligible voting member, please make sure that you have a clicker device for the voting during our annual business meeting. If you don't have one, you can pick them up right outside this room. In fact, you'll probably be in line right behind me because I need one. And we're going to take a short break and come back with the annual business meeting to begin in this room in 15 minutes. So we will see you then.